Every month, a UFC pay-per-view is held up from the main event with a defense of a UFC world title, and one of the biggest titles is the lightweight 155 championship title. Currently right now, Ilia Topuria is a lightweight champ, in which he won the belt with a bit of a layup from the UFC with Charles Oliveira, in a very much obviously AI'd fight that wasn't real at all. But now we have a pretty big issue. Ilia came out and he said he's open to fighting again before the end of the year, and with each belt being defended roughly every 6 or so months, we need a contender that's going to be able to fill that spot. So, who should fight Ilia Topuria come December, January, or maybe even February? Well, ideally we book a number 1 contender fight, but if we can't, because some fighters are extremely entitled.
Really? So if he doesn't get a title shot, that could be it? We might not see Justin Gaethje again?
Yeah, Jean is a very principled guy, and I never feel strong about this, and he really told me this yesterday. I was him at the fight. He said, I'm not going to get a title shot. I feel disrespected. I love being a UFC fighter. I love the UFC, but I feel the UFC have to love me back, and he doesn't feel the love right now. But
I think this is the list of the 4 contenders it possibly could be, and the order of which I'd rank the likelihood / deservability of these contenders. So, in at 4, I've got Justin Gaethje, one of the GOATs of CTE, and ability to farm the infinite title shot glitch. Gaethje has been going on a rant spree saying he deserves the title shot, suggesting that he won't fight anyone else until he gets his way for the belt. So here's the one reason as to why I think he should get the next title shot. He's on a win streak, a 1-fight win streak, but still a win streak, within the top 5. And when you're on a win streak within the top 5, you automatically kind of enter, some talks for the title or whatever. However, I always have a billion reasons why this shouldn't be the case. Number 1. The last big memory we saw of Gaethje was him getting knocked out, and the truth is that Gaethje was a part of one of the most biggest knockouts in UFC history, if not the biggest knockout, and this was a little over a year ago. As much as it might be disrespectful, I think the fans have kind of been killed for any hype or anticipation of him being a contender for good, and you can't blame them. The guy was absolutely dominated for 5 rounds and then got knocked out cold. That is not a guy you want fighting for the belt. And above that, since that point, his only fight was against Rafael Fiziev, which went to a decision. Wasn't that entertaining if we're being honest, and was an opponent that Gaethje had already faced and beat before, which gave him a slot for the title for the BMF fight. So we're really just going to let Gaethje farm wins over Fiziev for title shots. Me personally, I don't want it. Then above that, I guess this can be my second reason, but he's already lost to Charles Oliveira and the aforementioned Max Bless Holloway, who have both been knocked out by Ilia. So, then why would you want me to believe in any way imaginable that Gaethje would have a chance at winning this fight? Ilia himself has said that he's not interested in it, and Gaethje has been publicly calling for this or retirement. So at this point, I can't imagine the UFC is happy to give him the shot, nor should they. I doubt this is one being made unless Gaethje steps in as a backup opponent, but you never know. When you're in a winning streak in the top 5, anything could happen. I give him a puncher's chance, maybe like 15 or 20% chance of beating Ilia right now, but even then, he hasn't gotten a knockout in like many years. So, yeah, Ilia by quick work, Gaethje by farming CTE. It shouldn't be Gaethje. Next, number 3, Max Holloway. Now, I think Max actually has a better chance than you think. He's kind of being slept on, but in the lightweight division, he's coming off of wins against Dustin Poirier and Justin, highlighting CTE Gaethje, which are 2 pretty big wins to be fair. Both are legacy defining, and so he's very much in the mix. However, we can't ignore the fight in between those 2 wins. Whilst he is on a win streak at lightweight, overall he is coming off of 1 win, because he has already fought the champ, just at a different weight class. So yeah, really the only thing holding Max back at this point is the previous Topuria fight, which wasn't that long ago. It's been less than a year, so I think that if anyone else was the champ, he'd probably have a much higher chance, but I think we still need to wait a little longer before a rematch with Ilia. And to be fair, it would be weird if we saw him fight for another title straight after having fought for the featherweight title. So maybe he does need to wait a little bit longer, but he's high in the mix. He's higher than Gaethje in the mix, basically. Now that leaves us with the most likely two contenders, Arman Tsarukyan and Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. Now this one was honestly pretty tough because there is good arguments on both sides. For Arman Tsarukyan, I'd say that in terms of resume, he's easily the most deserving here. For one, him and the champ both had the same most recent win against Charles Oliveira. I mean, both were AI'd, but whatever. Whatever helps them sleep at night, if I'm being honest. Whatever helped them... I can't speak. To put it in comparison, Paddy's last win was Michael Chandler, who lost, to the entire top 5 by this point. So... I mean, sorry, my bad. He's only lost, 2 of the top 5. You gotta put some respect on Chandler. But still, Arman has the superior resume. However, here's the reasons why I don't think it should be Arman. For one, and probably the most obvious, the guy last fought back in April of last year. To put that into perspective, Max Holloway has fought 3 times since Arman's last fight. Pereira, who was also on the same card, has fought 4 times since Arman's decision got announced, and Charles himself, who lost the fight to Tsarukyan, has fought twice since that point. Yet since Arman has pulled out on a day's notice and actively denied fighting Gamrot, so basically he's just pulling a Gaethje and waiting, which is fair enough to a certain extent, except for the fact that Dana White pretty much openly told the guy that he needed to fight again after pulling out. And yeah, look, Dana said that it might have been missing weight or something like that, but overall, I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it doesn't really matter. The guy literally pulled out last minute and essentially cooked the UFC with that pullout. It's not like a pullout which, like when Charles pulled out against Islam, where they had 10 days to find an opponent, such as Volk. Arman pulled out a day before the weigh-ins. He literally pulled out with 48 to 24 hours left before the fight. He couldn't have cooked them more, but above all else, he wasn't promoting the fight anyways. I don't know if you remember the 311 press conference, but Arman basically told each reporter to piss off every single time they asked him a question, which to be fair is valid because the questions are dog ass. But the UFC, the UFC needs to hire one of us MMA YouTubers. Will work out better. But yeah, Arman doesn't really promote at all. He's openly pulled out on extremely short notice, and he's been inactive. So overall, I ain't gonna hold ya. It's not the best look. I mean, the guy's been cornering Hamza. He's been making videos calling Ilia a duck. But overall, last time I watched this guy in the octagon, he was almost subbed by Oliveira on multiple occasions. And Ilia just finished him in a round. A split decision really doesn't compare. So all in all, I do think skill-wise and resume-wise, he is probably the most deserving. However, the UFC is a business, and it's a business built on hype. Look at it from this perspective. Great fights don't sell pay-per-views, because people won't see the fights unless they come to watch. Now, all the homies know that there hasn't been a pay-per-view since 300, but all jokes aside, even though it's definitely possible that Arman brings a better fight to Ilia than Paddy does, I think people will want to see the Paddy fight more. We know that Pimblett will hype the fight. We've seen him and Ilia go back and forth, and he's even entered the cage against him. Ilia has publicly stated that he thinks fighting Arman next is a joke, and whilst Dana wasn't so sure about Paddy being next, I think if we don't get any movement before the fight, it will probably be Paddy over anyone else. I think people are reluctant on this fight because we've kind of already, had an agreement that Paddy needs one more. But I think of that as, not really necessary. I mean, yes, in a perfect world, I'd like to see Paddy beat a Gaethje, Charles, or Arman fight first before he gets a shot. But it doesn't look like that's possible within the UFC's time frame. And let's be real, they've given title shots to guys for less. Khalil Roundtree was only ranked 10th when he fought Pereira for the belt. O'Malley was kind of given a pretty big layup. So has Josh Van, as of recent. And even Islam didn't really he didn't really have a majorly impressive set of wins before fighting for the belt. Pre-belt, Islam's last 2 wins were Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. Paddy's most recent 2 was Bobby Green and Michael Chandler. Literally the same thing, pretty much the same. They both got journeyman Bobby Green, and let's face it, Hooker and Chandler are pretty much the same level of opponent. So like I said, whilst I prefer Paddy having one more win before this, I'd say 4th Gaethje, 3rd Holloway, 2nd Arman, and my personal pick of who should fight for the belt next, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. And I'm not biased. I'm Aussie, I'm not English, so don't be saying that in the comments. Like and sub, please. We're a new channel, and I'm hyped to build an audience. Comment who you think Ilia should fight next below. I know a lot of people are probably going to say, in terms of skill-wise, Arman should be next. I believe that. I believe he probably gives a harder fight to Ilia. But I think in terms of just sales and what the UFC tends to build their business on, Paddy is probably the move.